Hello everybody, welcome back to another sit down video with myself. Today we are gonna have ourselves a real heart to heart. This isn't your average wife talk video. Today this is more of a diary of the imperfect wife confessions. Today I'm spilling the tea. I'm sharing with you guys some of the mistakes I wish, or I guess I should say, if I could go back and change, what I would do differently. You know, as I was thinking about creating this video, I've known that I've wanted to do this for a while, but as I was driving back home this morning from running a few errands, I just began to feel the nerves of actually sharing this with the world. And if you can hear my dogs, it's because they're having a grand time in the kitchen. But I really began to feel nervous about spilling the tea with the whole world out there. Even though I've really worked through these things, Elijah and I have talked about this. We have literally gone to counseling over this one situation I'm going to share with you today. But I realized without sharing the mistakes that I have made with the world, honestly, I'm doing all the other married women out there a disservice, right? Because if we could learn from each other's mistakes, I think we would be a lot better off in the world. People need to know about the mistakes that we make in our early years of marriage, so that honestly, I might just save you the pain for yourself. But today, I want to talk about one situation in particularly that was incredibly challenging and I wish I could go back and do differently. This was a situation that unfolded about, I don't know, probably 18 months ago in Elijah and I's relationship, if not a little bit longer. And this is how the scenario went. When you first get married, there's a bit of transition that happens. Okay, maybe not a bit, actually a ton of transition that you experience. You are not just now blending your norms and culture in life with somebody else's, but all your other relationships and dynamics and normals change also. And so I had really experienced when we first got married that my friendships actually really shifted. It was the first time that I wasn't living in a home full of other girls where there was just naturally relationship that just happened with other friends and girls throughout my day. But I was having to be way more intentional about cultivating those relationships. And yet a lot of those relationships had somewhat shifted because no longer was I living in their home, or I was just in a completely different season of life than they were in. They were single, they were in school, I was married and now working full time. And so I could feel the difference in the seasons, and I could feel the difference in relationship. But I actually still had this really deep need for my girlfriends. I just began to feel like I'm really lacking in this area of my life. Like I am needing some good friendships. I was just feeling the lack of that. And we know in life, when we have a need that is going unmet, if we don't meet it in a healthy way, it is going to be detrimental. It is going to lead to decisions that we know we shouldn't make. We're gonna start to try to find the easy way out of situations. So this is the lead up to the moment that I made an unfortunate decision because of a lot of things I was feeling in that season in my marriage, in my friendships, in myself, in my life. And there came this point that me and my girlfriends wanted to go out to this salsa class where you would go salsa dancing. They would do a lesson and then it was like free range. You could salsa dance with everybody at this salsa lesson. Well, and Elijah and I, when we were just friends or even just dating, we would often go to salsa lessons and salsa dancing, and it was something we loved to do. But ever since we kind of got into a serious relationship, we just stopped going. And so I had told the girls, I'm like, yes, I'm in, let's go. Let's have a fun Thursday night. Let's go to that salsa lesson and let's salsa dance. And so I had mentioned it to Elijah and I had asked him, I knew that he didn't love for me to go out dancing with my girls without him. He didn't always love the idea of me going out dancing or to bars or, you know, things like that. Not that I was engaging in any sort of sinful lifestyle, but the fact that I was just out and potentially in dangerous situations without him. And so I had mentioned it to him and I told him we're going to this salsa night. And I could tell he was kind of frustrated by it. But I was like, okay, a series of events kind of unfolded, and I ended up bailing on the girls that night and asking, can we just postpone till next week? And so everyone's like, yeah, that's fine. Let's just do next week. So next week rolls around and I mentioned to Elijah, hey, I'm gonna go work out and I'm gonna go to this salsa night with the girls afterwards. And he was like, okay. But I come home from working out to change and to go to the salsa lesson. And I could tell he was incredibly frustrated with me. And so I kind of just started to feel all this tension inside because I knew that going was going to make him frustrated, but I didn't want to be controlled either. Like, I didn't want him to tell me that I was not allowed to go have a good time. And I also felt the pressure that I bailed last week. I can't bail again so last minute. They're gonna be there in the next 30 minutes. Like, I need to get ready and go. And so I left the house that night knowing that Elijah was not thrilled about the idea that I was going, but he said, I mean, it's up to you. You can make the decision. I would hope that you wouldn't go. And so I took that and I left. I left the house and I met my girlfriends at this salsa lesson. And you know, you're first doing your salsa lesson. And then it was time to switch partners. And I found myself now dancing with this other man, salsa dancing with this other man. And I could feel the panic start to come over my body because I knew the very thing that Elijah feared was unfolding it right in front of me because I made the decision not to honor how he was feeling, but to be more concerned about pleasing other people and fulfilling this need in my life in a way that actually wasn't helpful to me or definitely not to our relationship. So I actually, in that moment, continued to dance with this man. And it wasn't anything bad. It was just that I knew in the back of my mind that my husband would not approve of this situation. And if he was here, I would not be dancing with this man. That would be so awkward. Elijah would surely interrupt and come dance with me. But instead, I'm left dancing with this instructor and feeling so uncomfortable and knowing I am here dancing with this man and my husband's at home, fearing that this is the very situation that would unfold. And so I actually, after that moment, stepped into the bathroom with my friend and I just began to cry. I just began to feel the weight of the decision that I had made and was so scared that I now had broken trust and hurt Elijah in the process of hoping to not disappoint anybody else or not have this need met in my life. And so I ended up leaving the salsa night and salsa dancing and got in my car and I called Elijah and I was like, hey, are you awake? And he was like, yeah, what happened? It's like he just knew. And I was like, nothing, because I wanted to tell him in person. So by the time I got home, he was in bed and suspicious, but also not really wanting to connect. He was hurt. And I just told him, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you what happened. And it was so incredibly painful for us because I knew that I had made a mistake, but I also knew my mistake was actually just a sign of the other areas in my life and even in our relationship between us that we needed to work on. And so that moment actually led us straight into a counseling session with Elijah's parents, where we often go when we need a little extra help in the equation. It was humbling for both of us to have to acknowledge where we had made mistakes in the situation, where I had made an obvious mistake, and how had our relationship come to a place where these needs are not being met, and how can we actually make sure that these needs are being met and that I'm being taken care of in this way. But also, how can I lean in and try to understand how this is incredibly frustrating for Elijah? And how can he learn to respond in a way that makes me feel like he's seeking to understand and have compassion, even in the midst of his pain, and not making assumptions about my decisions or desires, but how do we begin to build trust and have game plans for how we as a couple are going to lean into connection when we are in pain, but also have a plan for when we are feeling like our needs are not being met and like we are needing connection and fun with each other. We left that counseling appointment that day with a big list of things we needed to work on. And a few of the very practical things that I remember leaving with were the fact that we needed to work on our connection in having fun. Because I was like dying inside. I was needing to have fun in my friendships and in my life again. And I just felt like all my life consisted of was work. And then coming home, and marriage was not filled with fun. It was often filled with really like practical decisions that we were trying to make in that season about building our future and all these like seemingly exciting yet not really fun, lighthearted things. And so we walked away with a better plan for success, but I have to say it was hard. And I look back and I realized that as a wife, I had a decision that day and I didn't put Elijah first. And I had vowed to him that he would be my priority, that he would be my first. So I had to learn, man, this is a challenging. I'm not one of the girls anymore. I'm not living in the house full of single girls anymore. And what does it look like to be married? In marriage, there is a level of sacrifice that you make where you're not gonna go out to these nights and just dance with anybody that you thought originally before marriage or before a relationship that you would just freely be able to dance with, where now there's a level of responsibility that you carry because you are in a covenant relationship. And so it's a learning curve. There's been different situations where that's unfolded differently for both of us. But for me, that was a moment that I had to learn what it actually looked like to put my husband first before my own self and my selfish needs and desires in that moment. And so, ladies, my goodness, I hope you can learn some things from my mistakes in that moment. But gosh, it was a lesson learned, and I will not be making that type of mistake again. So, ladies and gents, here's to more wife confessions in the near future. Until next time, have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your week. Love y'all.